All right, you've had an opportunity to stretch, and fellow Toastmasters, you see these sessions sometimes expand a little because of all of your great questions and our interaction together. We're going to move on now to what all of us need to find out more about, because we need more contest Zoom masters. We need more Zoom masters in general, but right now we're in contest season, so we need more contest Zoom masters. And tonight, Sue Leitholf, our District 84 Technical Support Chair, is actually going to be talking about what do you need to be a Zoom master? What things do you need to know about? What do you have to set up for those online contests? So we're talking about online contests. And if you're thinking hybrid, just realize you're going to have to do this for the hybrid portion of your meeting too. So either way, these are some important things you might want to find out about, and she's going to give you technical knowledge on how to do these things. All right, gives me a great deal of pleasure to introduce to you distinguished Toastmaster Sue Leitholf.
Thank you, Vicki. Welcome to the D84 Zoom moderator or Zoom master. They're used interchangeably, and we'll pretty much call them a Zoom master because, well, it's a master. But before we get started, I think we sort of covered this earlier, if you know, how many people are going to be having their contest 100% online? What about hybrid? And what about in person? Vicki, because I can't see everybody, about what were we looking at?
Well, not everybody is responding. It does like we have a couple that are hybrid and several online only, and I think one or two in person.
Okay, great. Now just remember that clubs are allowed to do their contest any way they'd like it. We just talked about that, in person, online, or hybrid. Now, of course, if they do 100% in person, they don't need a Zoom moderator. Today, my purview will be the online contestants. As we talked about before, as you just went into a lot of detail, hybrid has a lot of moving parts and it's a lot to consider. And as also we stated before, is the area contest will be in January and February. And so we'll do some extra training then to get everybody ready. So tonight, I'm going to cover a couple things, and this is being recorded, by the way. I'm going to be giving you a lot of information, and so don't worry about trying to write everything down because it's a lot of information. Now, PowerPoint will also be available. So tonight, we're going to be covering what your role is as a Zoom master, why it is important, the preparation that you need to do before the meeting. We're going to be looking at the waiting room, how to move people in and out of the waiting room, spotlighting, and breakout rooms. You've heard all of those terms, and at least today you'll see how to do them, get some directions, and we may or may not have some time to practice, but we will have time hopefully for some Q&A at the end. And if you want to break in, Vicki is going to help me if anybody has their hand raised because I cannot see everybody. Thank you. All right, so what is a Zoom master? Yes, they're a Jedi master at times. If you do it seamlessly, ooh, they think you're a Jedi master because you've done it. But what are the purposes for it? So it's to keep the contest agenda as set up. So again, we're going to just talk about the preparation you're going to do. But remember, your job is not to be the contest master and to be the talker. Your job is to help and to support. It's also to keep the meeting running smoothly by rehearsing it, by keeping those things. You want to keep the technical interruptions from coming up. You'll also want to, again, minimize these technical interruptions. If you know how to mute people, if you know how to move people in and out, the smoother, the better you are at it. And it also provides with some uniformity. We want all our contestants to shine, and by doing uniformity, everybody gets to shine together. So before the contest, now this is where it's going to be a lot of information, but the big thing is on who does it. This is not really your job as the Zoom master to have all of these, to know all this information, to actually ask all these questions. It's really the chief judge or the contest master who will set up this, but these are the questions that you are going to need the answers to, which will help your job. Such as, well, one of the things is you definitely need to have at least 2 sergeant-at-arms. And this, again, I'm talking about the online. And so you want to have one in case there's a technical failure. Also, when you're doing the evaluation contest, you're going to have 1 sergeant-at-arms in with the contestants, and you're going to have 1 sergeant-at-arms in with the regular room. We'll talk about breakout rooms a little bit. You'll also need to know how many breakout rooms. Now, everybody is different, and that's why we do it. So how many breakout rooms? We'll talk about, again, how many you need, but you'll definitely need 1 for the ballot counters, 1 for evaluation contests, and maybe some extras. And the entrance and exits. How do people know how to enter and exit? Again, there's 1,000 different ways. One of the things I do want to say is there are many ways that you can do things in Zoom. You can do things 3 or 4 different ways. I'm going to be showing one of the ways if you know of others, which is fine. Now, also remember, I'm on a PC. I honestly don't really know too much about a Mac. So what I'll be showing you are mostly the PC terms and not politically correct. And also in terms of, I really don't recommend that you are a Zoom master on a phone or a tablet. Yes, I've had some good people do it on a tablet, but it's difficult. It's really a good internet connection on a computer. So again, you need to access how will people know to come in and out? Who will be given those famous host and co-host rights? We'll talk about what those are later. What is the naming convention? Will the cameras be all on or all off? A lot of questions you need to know. Again, you're not asking them, you're just needing to know the questions. Are you going to be spotlighting the speaker or the speaker view option? How will ballots be submitted? The timing protocol. How will the people know? Are you going to pin the timer or are you going to spotlight the timer? So all of those you need to be part of the meeting with the contest officials. I know they meet it, so you need there. Now, I also recommend, it's a lot of work, that you be present with the meeting with the contestants. So the big thing on the meeting with the contestants is having the naming convention. So you'll know what I recommend. Again, a lot of covering in the future, but having all the contestants have the same name, especially on evaluation, call them EC1, EC2, it makes you a little bit easier. And we're also, when you talk to the contestants, you'll also want to talk to them about the breakout room. That's very important that you or the sergeant-at-arms or whomever, but you need to make sure that it's told that they keep their camera on at all times when they're in the evaluation breakout room. That is very important. One of the, what I'll call almost one of the most important for breakout rooms is the contestants leaving them. So as a Zoom moderator, you should teach your contestants, make sure you leave the breakout room and not the meeting. So right now, I have opened a couple of Zoom breakout rooms, or I haven't opened them yet, excuse me. Normally in a contest, we would have, you would be assigned to them. But if you want to go ahead, go into a breakout room, look to see how you would explain to a contestant how to leave. Remember, look at the breakout rooms. So just go ahead and enter a breakout room and try to figure out how you would explain to a contestant how to leave it. We'll just do a few seconds on this one, a few moments, but feel free if you want to go ahead and into the room. Is anybody going to be going in? I'm going to go ahead and close them. We want to go ahead and get moving. This was just a little quick get ourselves moving and our blood flowing.
And closing breakout rooms is another opportunity you have to be in control as the Zoom master.
2 people out there, 3. Now it's 30, so when you do close a breakout room, it's 30 seconds or 60 seconds, which when you're in a breakout room, it never seems like enough time. When you're here looking at the clock, it's forever. I do know that. I swear it's been longer than 26 seconds and you never have enough time. All right, I'm going to go. Does anybody have any questions? Do you feel like you could show your contestants of what to do? Because we don't want anybody to accidentally get disqualified.
I'd like to play devil's advocate here, Sue.
Okay.
You were talking about booting, leaving room versus leaving the meeting. How is accidentally hitting the leave the meeting button by accident any different than technology booting someone off and having to give that person an extra 30 seconds or an extra minute to get back on and an extra 30 seconds for their timing?
So Deb, I can answer that. In the breakout room, when they are in a breakout room and the technology goes down, they're out. It doesn't matter. So they don't get that 30 seconds is when they're actually speaking. When they are in a breakout room and they have had a technology issue, it cuts them off. They're automatically disqualified. I hate it, but that's just, we don't know the difference.
And part of that has to do with the fact that for the most part, like accidentally, it's still within the contestant's control. Knowing to leave it versus leave the meeting versus leave the room is within the contestant's control, whereas a technical issue during the contest is not necessarily within their control. And usually it's very obvious what's occurring.
No, I get it. I just wanted to play devil's advocate so this way Zoom moderators have the opportunity to say, this is why, because it is important as the Zoom moderator that we know the reason why they were disqualified if it was technology booting them off.
Right.
Or
Tina
it
has
was
her
an
hand up,
accidental leave the room.
Okay, Tina, and I think we need to get, we've got a lot to cover. I don't mean to be, but Tina?
I can save it to the end, and I'm writing my questions down. I can save it to the end.
Oh, okay. Cool. Felicia, our true Zoom master. I'm just a Zoom master in training when I look at Felicia, but.
Fine, Sue. I just wanted to add that when they leave the breakout room, they come right back to the contest. If they leave the whole meeting, the only way is for them to come back through the main room, which means they're disrupting privacy. They're not supposed to hear the previous person's evaluation that was given. So it also throws off that process. It would be as if they walked through the room if you were in person while somebody was given their evaluation. So that is another justification if you need another explanation.
Right, but we have a waiting room, so
All right, moving on.
Gonna move some things around here. I had everything. I can't see all my screen.
We see the screen.
Thank you. So ahead of time, so some things you need to do in advance of the contest. One of the things is you as the Zoom master should find out who actually holds the Zoom account. There are some people who hold many Zoom accounts. It's really important. So one of the few things that the Zoom account holder must do is they should see if they have the most recent version. If you look down at the bottom and you look down at your little Zoom icon, if you see the square, you have the most updated version. If you're showing one with the projector, you may not have the most updated version. So it's really important to have that. You also want to make sure that the Zoom account holder has the waiting room enabled. And there is a selection that I'm going to read it word for word because this is how it states. Allow host or co-host to rename participants in the waiting room. This is a really cool feature that's come out in the last few months, and it's important. And you also want to make sure that the person has their breakout rooms enabled. You would hate to have in the middle of the contest all of a sudden go to open breakout rooms and, oh, wait, we all have to stop and open breakout rooms. So ahead of time, preparation. So day of the contest. Get there early. I'm an early person. I honestly, as a Zoom master moderator, I either want to be the first or second person in the room. Okay, I'm an early person anyways, but this gives me time to be ready. I actually have prepped ahead of time. I'll actually write notes to myself as who's going to do what. But by getting there early, I have time to think through all of the things that need to be done. And there are a lot of things that you should be doing. You need to be ready. So the first thing is you want to request the host or co-host rights from the account holder. So it's only the account holder who can originally grant the host rights. Now, if you're given host rights, which I recommend that the Zoom moderator is given host rights instead of co-host rights, we'll talk about that later, but so you can do it, go ahead and have those access it. And then, so you also, whoever has the host rights really should also have a really good internet connection, because you have somebody going in and out, that's not really good. To be honest, one of the problems I had with host rights is I had a lousy Wi-Fi connection. So I actually I come back here in my office and plug in directly into my computer, don't have a Wi-Fi issue, my computer works great. Okay, those are famous last words, by the way, so I apologize if I just if I just messed myself up. Once you have a host, let's say you've been given the host rights and you're all getting ready, you're getting yourself prepared. So one of the things you want to do is you'll see, if you go down to the bottom, you don't have it now, but when you do have host rights, you'll see this little shield, security. In that, you'll want to click on that and make sure that the enable waiting room is clicked. We'll talk about waiting rooms also, how to do them. Then you'll also want to make sure that the hide profile pictures option is selected. This is a really cool feature. Instead of having the judges try to figure out how to turn their pictures off ahead of time, by hitting the hide profile pictures, the judges come in with no picture. So this is one way. I was finding people were having a lot of problems taking off their pictures, or you thought you took them off, and lo and behold, you came in and my little cat was still there. So this way we don't have to worry about it. Now, another thing I recommend you do, and you can do this part right now, is if you go to the bottom and you open the participant panel. I love the participant panel. Yes, you can do things by the Brady Bunch pictures, but if you look at the participant panel, this has everything you want to do it. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. And just so you see what the difference is, if you open the participant panel, you'll see the co-host and the host go to the top. Now I'm going to have two. So if you notice, everybody is sort of mixed in there. I'm going to have Tina and Andrew. Can you go ahead and unmute yourselves and start talking? And everybody look to see where Tina and Andrew come in. Go ahead.
All right, yes, now's the time for all good men to come to the aid of their country.
Okay, I will.
So did everybody notice where all of a sudden you didn't have to look on the screen on the Brady Bunch scene to see who was highlighted? They came to the top and you can mute them. So then that's one of the things you can do on a participant screen. Then, and again, I love that participant panel. As a Zoom moderator, I really don't even pay attention too much to the Brady Bunch screen. Everybody is different. That's just me. Does anybody have any questions thus far? Let me go back. And you also go ahead at the bottom, you'll hit your breakout rooms, which we will just again discuss later. I keep saying we'll discuss later, but we will. All right, so we have the breakout rooms open. So there's a couple ways on the breakout room. You'll either get a notification. Felicia was my guinea pig one time, and she came into the waiting room and this notification came up. You'll also be able to do it from the participant panel. Again, my good old participant panel, but you want it, so you'll have that. Now, one of the jobs you have as a host or co-host is bringing people in from the waiting room or admitting them. Good communication is very important, because you don't want to bring the wrong person at the wrong time. As we talked about before, we're trying to keep the judges anonymous. So the last thing you want to do if you accidentally is bring in a judge while a contestant's there, or bring in a contestant when the judges is there. Now, one thing really cool about a waiting room virtually, I don't know who else is in there. So it's not like a waiting room in the doctor's office. You're looking around. Oh, I see Felicia. Oh, I see Vicky. Why are they here? I'm there. I have absolutely no idea what contestants, what are there. You're in a bubble, so to speak. So you cannot see each other. So again, if you have a contestant and a contestant and a judge in the waiting room, it's okay. They do not know each other are there. And so if you want to bring people in an order, we'll talk about renaming in a moment. But first, you want to bring in the contest chair, the master, and the chief judge. Have them in. Then you'll bring in the judges and the contest functionaries. I really recommend that you know who these people are. I know I've worked with people who are like, well, you don't need to know who the judges are. Sorry. Yes, in my opinion, the contest Zoom master really does need to know who these people are, unless you're going, hey, I got Tina Smith out there. Can I bring in Tina? No, so if I already have the list, I don't need to go asking. When in doubt, though, ask your contest master, hey, I'm not certain about person X. Your contest master probably should have some Zoom rights, co-host rights. And if you say, no, I'm not certain about person X, you can text them or chat with them. They can help you. Then you'll let the contestants in, and then you would let the guests in later. And then sometimes it's also easier if you have a breakout room for the judges. So you can bring the judges in, put them into a breakout room, and then bring in the contestants. Everybody does it differently. Again, that's what we talked about, talking and being part of that preparation so you know what you're doing. Yes, Vicky.
I just wanted to add, the reason you're bringing them in this order is because they're going to have briefings. So you're either going to be moving your judges to the breakout room where they're going to have all their briefings. The contestants will then come into the main room. They can have their briefing. And when all that's done, that's when everybody can kind of pull back together and so forth.
Thank you. All right. So let's just say that you have all of a sudden, again, here's the participant panel. The people at the waiting room go to the top. My cat was waiting for me. She was a very good example. She didn't know it, but she was waiting for me. So I had two options. I could either admit her, so I was ready for her to admit, or I could rename her. So those are my options. So if the contestants are already in there and I want to bring her in, on those the ellipse, or also known as the ... We're going to be talking a lot now about the ellipse ... I will go ahead and click on that. And then next would come up a message asking me to rename or remove. One of the things, and I would love to say that I've never done it, but to be very careful that I choose the rename instead of the remove. They're both RE names, and depending on the account holder, if you remove them, they may not be able to come back to the meeting. Whoops. So therefore, make sure, double and triple check yourself when you hit that you are renaming them. So whatever you decide. So renaming, it'll get an option coming up. I call her Square Cat, and then I renamed her to Square Cat. So she can come in as Square Cat or Judge 1, whatever I've been chosen ahead of time. We also showed before, you can also get a little pop-up screen that looks like this. Same type of thing. Either I go ahead and admit them, or by view, that is how I bring them in and I am able to rename. So in this case, it doesn't specifically say rename, but the view button does the exact same thing. And again, as we said before, it can't be said enough. When you rename, be very careful that you rename and not remove. Okay, so we bring them in. We talk about renaming. So we bring the people in to the room, and you will want to go ahead and rename them. Most people by now know how to rename themselves, but you may be asked as a Zoom moderator to rename somebody. Again, we suggest that you have some type of naming convention. It makes it so much easier to find people if you have all your ballot counters, BC1, BC2, evaluation contestants. So when you need to put them into the breakout room, club contests aren't as bad, but when you've got a long list of people, you're not trying to go up and down looking for them. The ballot counters are together, the timers are together, all on that participant panel. Again, I talk about my participant panel. So if I want to rename my cat, let's say I'd square cat, I want to name her Judge 1, I would go ahead and click on the ellipsis, the dots. You can see what comes up, more options come up, and I would hit rename and I will give her that rename. So same type of thing, and so you can rename them whatever, or judges. So how some people now, in terms of what you're going to rename the judges, Judge 1, J1, everyone is different, and that's why you need to talk ahead of time with your chief judge, the contest master, however, to find out what here it is. You'll also want some help. You can't do this alone. It's a lot of things you need to do. So what I highly recommend doing is giving people co-host duties. Great people to give your co-host duties are your sergeant at arms, maybe your contest master. Now these are people who, especially for I find sergeant at arms can help you, number one, let people in and out. Now if we were in a room, that would be the contest master's job to say, no, you need to stay, you can come in. Contest masters can, sergeant at arms can also help you with silencing people, muting people, things that you can do as a Zoom master, but the more help you have, the better it is. So to bring in somebody in as a co-host, now you will need to be a host to do this. So if your account holder has chosen not to give you co-host rights, they need to go ahead and grant co-host rights to others. So to be on again, here we go again in the participant panel, the dots, right above where we just renamed them, you'll see the option to make them a co-host. I will click on it. A message will come up. Did you really need to make Bobby the Square Cat a co-host? Yes. I click on that one. A little thing comes up at the top on my screen and on Bobby Square Cats that you are now a co-host of that thing. You can also see it in the participant panel. You can go there to see if you've been given those host or co-host rights. Again, your name is going to come to the top. Oops, I goes too fast. No, I didn't. Does anybody have any questions? I know it's a lot of stuff I'm throwing at you really fast. All right, so is everybody familiar on how to share a file in Zoom? Does anybody need everybody relatively familiar with how to share files?
Absolutely not.
Okay, no problem, Tina. That's what we're here for. So if you look at in the chat window, you'll see that little file icon. So what you would go ahead and click on, one of the reasons, let me first explain why. You may be asked to share the agenda. And so this would be a way where you, as a Zoom moderator in a contest, would need to share an agenda. So you would go ahead and click on that little file, navigate to where it's stored. Most people put it either in their OneDrive or their computer. This part is really, you just need to know where it is. If it's put on your desktop, that'll be in my computer. You'll navigate it and you'll say open and it will share it to everyone. Now, I'm sure all of us who have shared files have gone to share it and it hasn't gone through, right? Well, probably one of the main reasons where it didn't work is the file was open. So all you need to do is close the file wherever you have it and do it again. So you can rename it and do other things, but the easy peasy way is just to close it and do it. It's happened to all of us. It does happen. One of the things you do need to be aware of is the way Zoom works is if you share something and you put the agenda out, let's say it's 7:30, somebody comes in at 7:33, they don't see the agenda. So you may have to put it in the chat a few times. So muting participants, we talked about that earlier. So again, one of the things I highly recommend doing is having it where people come in, muting themselves upon entry. That doesn't mean that they can't turn off their mute, unmute them. It's really hard to say you can unmute. So you have it again at the bottom of the participants panel. You'll see a ... at the bottom. And one of the options, as you see, there's a few options. You can enable waiting room this way too. I told you there were many ways to do things, but on that you would select the mute participants upon entry. Felicia's always reminding me to do that. I swear every meeting she's like, remember to mute participants upon entry. So that, again, there are so many steps on this. This might be something where you say, hey, Sergeant at Arms, can you make sure, can you go ahead and mute everybody upon entry? Delegate some of these tasks. I'm a bad delegator, but hey, delegate the tasks and have that done. So again, and so we talked about before, if somebody all of a sudden starts to go and has their kid and have unmuted themselves, feel free. Yes, Vicki.
So this is a selection that you make ahead of time, or you designate someone to make, and then it's set, right? You're saying mute participants on entry, and then you really shouldn't have to worry about it again, except to monitor who unmutes themselves and has to be removed.
Absolutely, yes.
Right.
So once you have it set for this meeting, it might be, now it might actually be on already. The account holder might have this already pre-selected, but check it. Every account holder is different. We all are different. So.
And this is only the co-host can do this?
The host and the host. I knew I was going to say that at least once. The host and the co-host can do that. Yes. Now, one of the things we want to do to make contests fair and balanced is we want to go ahead and restrict chat. We don't want people to chat back and forth. Maybe they're chatting to the judges about what they thought, or we have no earthly idea. So we highly suggest is you restrict the chat. In the actual script, there is something that says co-host or Zoom master, why don't you go ahead and turn off chat? When they mean turn off chat, what they mean is what I call it restricting. So this isn't actually participant panel. This is at the bottom of the chat. We talked about what the file icon is, but the ellipsis, and you open the ellipsis and the option are where you can select where chat is completely off. People can chat to the host and co-host only. So if they put something in there, the only people who are going to read them are yourself, everyone and anyone directly. So I recommend you have it where they can chat to the host and co-hosts. They can put things in there. We can see them. Doesn't have to respond, but at least it wouldn't be to somebody who shouldn't be seeing it. So of course you wouldn't want to make your judges a co-host because they can be back and forth. So again, when in doubt, go ahead and just turn it off. Now, towards the end of the contest, when everything is in, all good to go, you can go ahead and turn it back on. And when I say turn it back on, have them go to everyone and anyone directly, the last one. But if you're not certain, just leave it off. It's not going to hurt. People are used to chatting, but it's not really going to make that much of a difference. Okay, now I have to apologize for Vicki. She did not know I was taking this picture, so I sorry. Now, one of the things we talked about before was spotlighting. Now, this is a decision that needs to be done ahead of time, whether there's really two options, whether the person is going to be going to speaker view where they will be shown. And if you do decide speaker view, not you, but the contest chair or the master, you just let everybody know to have it on speaker view. But let's decide you do decide to have it spotlighted for everyone. So now spotlighting is, there's hard, I wouldn't say it's the easiest task. So this is something where I recommend you Okay, play, practice, back and forth. So you're familiar, you've got it down where you can turn off the spotlight, turn on the spotlight. There's moving parts, and so you need to be thinking ahead of who you're doing. What I'm actually doing sometimes is I'm actually not listening to the person speaking. I am thinking, who am I spotlighting next? Where are they? So as a Zoom master, sometimes you can't really appreciate the contest as much because you're thinking behind the scenes, what's next, what's next. So if you really interested in the contests themselves, you may not want to be a Zoom master because you can't appreciate it as much. But if you do decide to spotlight the person, you can either do it through the ... on her picture or the participant panel, and you will see where it says spotlight for everyone. And that will turn on the spotlight for Vicky, and so she will be shown right here. Now, when's a really good time to spotlight them. As we talked about before, remember earlier in Sabrina's, they talked about that minute of silence. So in that minute of silence is the time to have that person spotlighted. So when they're ready to go, they're shown. If a person has chosen to turn off of their camera, you cannot spotlight them. You won't even see that option. When you go to the ... all you'll see is mute, video, chat, report, not spotlight. So you need to let the person know whether it's a video or oral cue, or there is an option that says, please share your video and turn on your video to have that on, because you will not be able to spotlight them if that is the case. It's just something I found. It can slow everybody down. So it couldn't hurt also to maybe remind the contestants, hey, make sure your spotlighting is on during that minute.
Make sure your video is on, not your spotlighting.
Thank you, Vicky. And also we're going to go ahead and if, let's just say that it has been chosen or determined that you want to have the timer spotlighted as well, this will be the option. You can also have the speaker pin the timer. Whatever it is, I highly suggest you have it set a time. Someone in one contest wasn't as clear. We did not ask the contestant if she could see the timer. She went over, and to this day, to be honest, I feel horrendous that I wasn't 100% guilty, but I was one of the people that caused her to go over, and she had an amazing speech. So really be careful, find out how to do it and be consistent. So let's just decide, let's go ahead and say, well, you've decided to spotlight the timer as well. So you go ahead and find the timer. Again, having the timer called timer, or whoever's going to be displaying the pictures, calling them timer. You would go ahead and find them and add the spotlight. You replace it, you would lose Vicky, but by adding the spotlight, it now becomes side by side, the speaker and the timer, side by side by side. Now I could add as many people. This is not really for contests, but if I could add 3 or 4 different people, if I was doing a round robin or something like this, but for at least for contests, just to do this back and forth. So you can see the timer, everybody can see the thing. Now, some people don't like that, to be 100% honest, is they feel judges and may feel that I'm noticing the timer and I'm not seeing anybody else. It's up to your club, up to the contest master is what to be done.
The most important thing is to ensure that the speaker can see the timer, whatever fashion that is.
Now, the next part is when we're going to go ahead and change the spotlight. Now, I should have done this on Vicky. So pretend that you're going to be replacing the spotlight on the speaker and not the timer. Didn't realize until it was too late that I was doing it on the wrong one. So in this case, we would go ahead over the speaker and find the ... and remove the spotlight. So to keep the timer on, remove it. Then go ahead exactly like we just did to add the timer. We're going to add to the next speaker. Again, during that 1 minute of silence. As I said before, there's a lot of steps. So this is something where if you do decide to spotlight, you've practiced the steps, and you're relatively familiar with them. Anybody have any questions?
Sue, can I just add one comment?
Yes, please, Felicia.
Always for contestants who are participating on their cell phone, they see a different view. And sometimes they have to swipe the screen to see the next person or to see the timer.
Thank you. So in terms of breakout rooms, I know everybody totally overwhelmed now, hopefully. It is a lot of things, but as Fortina's like, yes. But there's a lot of steps, but you practice them and they become second nature. So for some of you, this might be the first time that you've seen it. You may have seen the Zoom master doing the magic, being the Jedi master behind the scenes, but now you know the steps. So we want to go ahead and create them. And so why would we want a breakout room? Go ahead and just lay out some answers of what would be a reason we'd need to create breakout rooms.
Well, if you're doing a moments of truth and you divide people into groups.
Okay.
If there's a protest during the contest.
For judges briefing, you want the judges and the counters to go in to have their briefing. Or you want the counters to go in and count the ballots with the chief judge.
Those are all amazing answers. And so there's many reasons for breakout rooms, and they're not that difficult once you know the steps. So the big thing is when you want to separate members of the larger room. So in terms of, I think of it, if anybody's ever been to a big conference where you go, everybody goes into their little rooms. You might go into a room to hear this speaker and a room to hear this speaker. It's the same type of thing. Or when we had TLIs in person, you would go to this room to hear Vicky speak about Sergeant in Arms, and I would go to this room. It's the same type of thing. A breakout room is just a different room. Oh my goodness, my cats are absolutely crazy behind me. So there's a couple ways to find you open a breakout room. It really depends on your screen. So you may have it at the bottom where it has the breakout room, that little button, the 4 things, or if you don't see the breakout room, you just have to hit the infamous ... ellipse, and you will see the breakout room comes. It really is depending on how big your screen is, what you have going, is how much you will see at the bottom. So the first thing that will come up is this thing right here. I'm going to go straight to we're going to skip for this second about the number of people, but it's really important. Assign manually. This right here is the key. Assign manually. By assigning manually, you as the Zoom moderator and or host, your co-hosts can help you as well, make sure that you figure out who goes into what room. You don't want somebody accidentally, by opening all the rooms, you don't want somebody walking in to a wrong room and all of a sudden you're like, oh no, mom just showed up. Now what do? Mom shouldn't have been there. She doesn't know what she's doing. By doing it manually, again, you make sure you know how to do it. Now, how many rooms do you create? If you're doing just like a tall tale or an international speech, you really only need 1 room. If you're adding evaluations, you'll need 2 rooms. You may also have a room for your briefing, a contest brief, a contestants briefing, a judge's briefing. Rule of thumb, figure out how many rooms you need, add 1. Just a rule of thumb. The reason I say that is that once you open the rooms, and I'll show you how to open it again, you can't add a room on the fly. I really wish there was, but you have to go through a step by recreating them. You can do it, but you can't add it on a fly. You have to really close everything out and start it again. I've tried it many times, or all of a sudden I realize I've messed up. So take the time on this screen, look through it, go, okay, yes, assign manually, check. I want 3 rooms. I've decided ahead of time, I need 3 rooms. I'm going to make 4, and I'm going to hit the create button. Then one of the things I recommend you doing, so I've created 2 rooms, is you renaming them. Unless I don't rename, to be honest, if I don't rename them, I'm not going to remember which room I've decided to put the contestants in and what room I've decided to put the judges in. And I don't want to send the wrong person to the wrong room. So by renaming them, doesn't have to be a long, you have 34 characters. We've learned that through TLI, but just something similar to contestants, judges, ballot counters, something simple that you can easily recognize and it won't get you confused. All right. So once you've done that, next step I'd recommend in this one is you open all the rooms. Why is it not going to open all the, there we go. So once I've created the rooms and I've renamed them, I'm going to go ahead and open them. Well, sometimes you can go ahead and assign, but for this, I would recommend once you create them, open them. You're all doing this before the contest. So people aren't here yet. So by opening all the rooms, if it has been chosen that you're going to do a judge's briefing, when the judges come in, you can assign them. And I'll talk about assign them on the moment. So again, the rooms are open. Since nobody's been assigned, nobody can go in and out on that. And as I said before, plan for 2, make 3. So when people do come, we want to actually assign them to the room. So you will go ahead and click the word assign. You'll have a list that will come up and you'll check to see who you want in each room. That's what I talked about before. Let's just say this is the evaluation contest. If you've renamed them E1, E2 for evaluation 1, evaluation 2, BC, B1, you'll easily be able to find them and check them. And you would hit, this is where you'll hit not assign, no, assign but not join. That's where it confuses people. I should have shown that on here. So you sign and then you will hit by joining, that's a different thing. So that's correct, Felicia. I know I should have shown that on there. I think people get thrown up on that one. Okay. We were practicing it the other day and we kept messing it up. Yes, Vicky.
So just to clarify, when you open the breakout rooms, as people come in front of the breakout rooms at the top, all of the participants in the meeting, their names are going to start popping up there in a long list, right? And then next to their name is where you decide you're going to assign them to whichever room.
Yes, I should have
So
shown
that you
earlier.
know that.
Correct.
Yeah, I just wanted, so the names will appear. You can't assign till they're in the room.
Yeah.
That's why you're setting up the rooms ahead of time, but you're actually going to assign either as they come in or after they've all arrived.
Now, what I recommend, only because it throws people in terms of when they're assigned a room, all of a sudden they get a little message to say to join. That's fine to do it ahead of time, but when you're ready to send your evaluation contestants into the room, you might want to do that when the person is speaking or the test speaker, excuse me, that's who the person is, or be ready to go as soon as the test speaker is done speaking. Go ahead and assign them, put them in that room right now. Again, I don't really pay attention too much. I'm not listening to the test speaker. I'm thinking, who am I assigning to the rooms? So you want to double check, again, without assigning to the wrong person. And as we talked about before, and this can't be said enough, I know it's said in there twice, when they're in the breakout room is they need to make sure they leave the breakout room. Remind them, remind them, remind them. It's always good, even in the sergeant in arms, when they're in the rooms with the contestant in the evaluation contests, to remind them to leave the breakout rooms. I know it seems like it's a little overkill. Yes, I think Debbie, did you just?
Tina has a question.
Okay, thank you.
No, it can wait because I was going to ask them all at the same time when you're done with your briefing, because they touch various different topics that you've covered.
All right, we're almost done here. So we did talk about hybrids. Now, I don't need to go too much into detail, but if we do decide to do a hybrid for your club contest, you will need pretty much 2 of everything. So you'll have 2 contests going on. You'll have the inline contest and you'll have the person, and they have to seamlessly meld. Now, those clubs who have gone hybrid, I have one that we've had 1 hybrid meeting. I don't know whether, to be honest, I would feel confident yet having my contest that way. So we don't recommend, hey, let's have our first contest, our first hybrid meeting as our contest. Maybe not the best, but for people who have had multiple hybrid meetings and feel confident, go for it. Oops. Let me make sure I got a little quick on my withdraw there. Now there's a lot of really good materials out there. Again, you'll have access to this PowerPoint, and these are links. One of the links that is really good is Toastmasters International has a link for the online speech best practices. It's not Zoom Master directly, but it's great for everything. Now, there's also, we all know that you can go to YouTube to learn everything and anything, but Zoom has actually put out some good YouTube videos that they put on their site. There's one showing you, they're about 3 to 4 minutes, really quick, dirty, going through those steps on spotlighting, creating the breakouts, or anything. Zoom has some really amazing videos. And they also have one on hybrid meetings that they put out on how to do a hybrid meeting. All right, does anybody have any questions? No, I would love to say this is one of my cats, but yes, Sina. So I am also, before I continue, I am also available for tutorials, either one-on-one for a little bit if you want some practice. But yes, Tina.
How do you handle, well, this is necessarily a Zoom question, but how do you handle if a contestant turns off their camera while they're in the breakout room? You said they're automatically disqualified. Do you announce that after? When do you announce that, or do you, or just during?
Sergeant, how I would do that, I wouldn't notice as a Zoom master, but the sergeant at arms should be in there, and they should. I'm looking at Vicky, Felicia, and the sergeant at arms should report it if I'm understanding it correctly.
Report it to the chief judge, and the chief judge will make the decision. Probably in conjunction with the contest master, but the chief, anything that is potentially a problem needs to be reported to the chief judge.
Okay.
And FYI, as we're going along, I'm copying the links on Sue's slide and putting them into the chat for you.
Can you private chat with someone in the waiting room? Can you private chat with that person
In the
while they're in the
breakout room?
in a waiting room?
Yes, I can. Not individually, it goes to everybody. So it's a broadcast to
Okay.
all in the waiting room that will say it's such and such. Hey, we're still waiting. You can say maybe, hey, we know there's some delays because again, remember you're in that waiting room, you're in that bubble, but you can tell people we're there, but that's a really good question. Thank you for reminding me to say that, Tina.
Okay, next to your name and Vicky's name on the participant panel is a little cloud with a red dot in it. What is that?
I think if I remember, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing so I can look at it. I think that's because we are currently.
That's the recording.
Recording.
Yeah. Okay. And
Good
as
call.
far as
Good catch on that one. I'll have to give you credit for seeing that.
oh, thank you. I take Starbucks gift cards. To share a file, and it brings me to the Toastmaster Free Toast agenda. I have to save it first, and I can't share it from Free Toast. I have to save it and then on my computer and then share it. Okay,
Yes,
good.
yes.
Got that one. And my last question is assign but not join. I was confused on that. Assign but not join.
Okay, so I'm going to go back. I was not clear on that one. So when you've assigned somebody on here, you'll see an option that will also say join. Now the join is for you. So if I wanted to go into a room, if I wanted to go, it'll say join for myself. But if I wanted to send Bobby Kitty, I would assign her. It can be a little confusing.
Okay.
Because the both words are up here, but join is what join is. It allows you as the I almost got around with doing it again. You as the host and co-host jump in and out of rooms, and that is joining. Assigning is having other people go.
Okay, I got it now. That's all I got. Thank you so much.
Sabrina?
Yes, thank you. I feel like the Zoom master is a stage manager. Can I equate those two? The Zoom master is being the stage manager? Sue?
I'm learning what a stage, I haven't learned, I'm going to be learning what a stage manager is, so,
Anyway, that's just a comment. I have a question for you though, Sue, where I know, and this has come up a couple of times about when we are leaving the breakout room or leaving the meeting, and some people could accidentally hit leave the meeting and then they exit and have to re-enter the meeting. Is that something that we could add in our script somehow, where the contest master announced it, or there's that spiel where the chief judge has a little say and we could add that as a reminder?
Vicky is working on the scripts right now.
I
so
think
probably
that's
is-
in the briefing.
Yeah, it is in the briefing, but I'm reworking the scripts to include some of that very specific things, because I agree with you,
Right.
Sabrina.
Because the
It's-
briefing, yes, we're telling them, but again, this is nerve-wracking for a lot of people, and they just are excited, they're competing, and then they hit the leave meeting. So maybe if we remind them a couple of times, it might. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, everybody
Sabrina,
hears
I'd like
something
to-
at different time.
I'd like to suggest, when I was doing Sergeant at Arms in a room, I
Mhm.
would basically, my spiel was, Sabrina, you are now free to move about the cabin. Please remember to hit leave room, not meeting. And make sure that Sergeant at Arms is saying that each and every time to each and every contestant, so it's fair and equal.
And Felicia, I know, see, we're running out of time, but Felicia has her hand up.
Just a side note, if you're working with a club that has a lot of people that are afraid of Zoom or not as comfortable, that's a good example to do your contestant briefing before, a few days before. So everybody gets a chance to practice going in and out of breakout rooms. They're comfortable. They can see timers. You may not want to do it an hour before the contest, because now there's more for them to intake and process. If you have an experienced group that's very comfortable with that, you can do it that morning, but it's a good opportunity to practice before. And it also helps you, if you're the Zoom master, make mistakes then, figure it out, and then you're ready for contest day.
Yeah.
All right, just since we're running out of time, I'm going to go ahead and put my contact information up here. As I said, my title is Tech Support Chair. You can email me or give me a call, it's fine. And I do have my own Zoom account, so feel free, we can go and we can play. And I call it playing. I know not everybody does call it playing, but come in, feel free, or go ahead and open a Zoom. You all have access, even you have access to a Zoom. You can go ahead, create a room even by yourself, and maybe open breakout rooms. You can't do everything. Spotlighting, you need about 4 people. So you can't really play with spotlighting, but you can play with breakout rooms on your own using your free account. I've learned, that's what I've done. As you can see, I brought my cat in as well. So that might be a way of just going ahead and opening a room and doing it. Just playing.
Or if you have multiple devices, 5 devices, you can join 5 times.
I do it twice. Yes.
Felicia has
do you
her.
have your hand up again, or? Okay. All right, Vicky, I think that's
No,
everything.
Felicia.
I think I've overwhelmed them.
Oh, well, I want to say, first of all, thank you so much, Sue. A lot of information. I think you tried to organize it as well as can be expected. And we appreciate the fact that you are available to help us and continue our education. I want to encourage all of you to do just what Sue has done, and that is practice. Volunteer at your club. If you're online, volunteer to be the Zoom master and try doing those things. That's the best way to learn all of these things. It sounds like a lot, but most of the tools and controls she talked about are in the exact same spot, and you can see the drop-down menus and start selecting. So remember the participant screen, those wonderful little ... ellipses, those are the key to all things Zoom, at least in my opinion. So practice as much as you can.